There are concerns over the British government's push to implement an alcohol excise duty on Australian wine of up to 70 pence a bottle. Joining us live is Accolade Wine's Chief Executive, Robert Foye. Robert, appreciate you making the time for us. Thank you. Firstly, just set the scene for us. How important is the UK market to Aussie wine producers? How much wine do we export to the UK? And how does that compare with some of our other big trading partners?
Thanks, Ash, and it's great to talk to you. It's our largest market at Accolade Wines. We're actually the number one importer of wine into the UK of any wine company, including Old World and New World. But the UK market's extremely important to the Australian industry. It's our most important market. It's probably one of the top one or two markets for Australian wine producers in general. And as you know, with the change in tariffs in China, the UK market has become an even more important market for Australian winemakers.
We have all been championing this new free trade agreement, but what is this proposal in terms of this new alcohol excise duty, and how would that impact where you land in terms of the benefits being outweighed?
Yeah, well, the free trade agreement between Australia and England in the UK on Australian wine has been excellent. It basically has taken the duty down to zero and made it much fairer for Australian wine versus other types of wines and Old World wines. And that is taking about 20 pence a bottle off of the cost of Australian wine. And again, that takes it off the import duty, which goes to zero. And now there's a new excise tax regime that's being looked at very hard that will probably go in market in April and also even get heavier August next year. And that can take Australian retail prices up as high as 70 pence a bottle. So again, wiping out that entire 20 pence that was given in the FTA, and for some wines with higher alcohol content, even going up as high as 70 pence a bottle. And the real issue is fairness, because the way the new excise tax in the UK is structured, it penalizes higher ABV wines. And Australian wines, because they come from certain warmer climates and certain soil conditions, have higher ABV, and therefore will be taxed more than Old World wines. And we just don't think that that's fair. And we think it should really be looked at in terms of not only a FTA and knocking out the benefits of that 20 pence that's been put in, but also in terms of fairness of Australian wine versus Old World wines and wines from other countries.
So, Robert, you're obviously lobbying against this, and we can understand why, but I assume when it comes to the Australian government, I mean, they wouldn't really have much sway here in terms of intervening, would they? I mean, alcohol duties, that issue is separate to the free trade agreement.
It is separate. It's run by the Treasury, but at the end of the day, the UK government needs to work together and I think pass tax laws that are fair. Again, we have no issue with necessarily duties potentially going up. If that's the public policy of the UK, that's great. But we believe that system should be easy to implement and as fair for Australian winemakers as it is for Old World winemakers in other countries. So that's really what it's about. And certainly the Australian government can influence that and at least get that message across.
Robert, more broadly, how is the wine sector travelling? At Accolade Wines, have you noticed the cost of living crisis is starting to affect sales both here and overseas?
Yes, it definitely is. It's definitely affecting the UK market more. And if you look at the total market in the UK, and that's another reason this excise tax could be a big issue, is the wine category actually is in decline in the last 52 weeks. In fact, it's declining by 7 to 8%. Our business, actually, we've done really well. We're actually growing about 10% faster than the market. So we're growing 1 or 2% in a significantly declining market. But bringing in these excise taxes on top of cost of living issues and people trying to pay their energy bills and everything else, it really is not a great idea for the wine industry in general, but again, also should be done on a very fair basis.
Robert, I understand you spent several years actually working in China in the wine sector. You alluded to the issues we're seeing with that market at the moment. What's your expectation and analysis in terms of how things might be on the up on that front after we saw that meeting between our Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, and Xi Jinping a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, well, we never make predictions about what the end game is there, but what I would say is it is very, very positive that those discussions are happening. And at the end of the day, any politics aside, it is good. Free trade is good, and it is good for countries' businesses to work together. So we're cautiously optimistic that there's some direction here that can end up actually helping take down the China tariffs for Australian wine. And, Chinese consumers, just like British consumers, they love Australian wine in terms of the quality, the weather, the soil, the history of the Australian wine industry. It all points to really high quality, great tasting wine with a lot of heritage and a lot of potential in China and the UK.
Robert, when it comes to that global market, what's the favoured grape? Is there a variety that our overseas friends like, particularly when it comes to our wine?
Again, when it comes to Australian wine, everybody likes every variety. But I would say the Shirazes,
Good
the
answer.
Chardonnays, the Pinots, and people love also just going around the different regions, and also Tasmanian wine, as part of Australian wine. So, Australian wine is extremely high quality. It's got, hundreds and hundreds of years of history, and it's loved by consumers all over the world, and especially in China and UK. So there's a lot of opportunity there.